Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
G'day, Starlo here, and welcome to the first of my Tuesday YAK chats. Some time ago I did a series of videos and podcasts called my Tuesday chats, looking at a whole range of different topics, and people really seem to enjoy them. And when I stopped doing them, a lot of people asked me to bring them back, and I thought, all right, well, I'll wait until the depths of winter when I've got a bit of time on my hands, and I'll do another series of Tuesday chats. But I thought, you know what, I'll get out of the studio and I'll do them in the kayak, because I just love my kayak fishing. I've got a whole playlist of videos about kayak fishing on my Starlo Gets Real channel. It's probably my happiest place, actually, when it comes to fishing. I just love getting out in the YAK. And I love filming in the YAK too, because it's such a contained and controlled environment. I've got the one camera there that I'm talking to. I've got another camera here on my chest. I'm sitting here, so I'm always in shot, and I can cut between the two cameras. It's a really nice way to make YouTube videos, and hopefully it'll also work as a podcast. If you're listening to this as a podcast, you're missing all the vision, but you're still getting all the audio, and I hope you really enjoy it. Anyway, look, I better get this lure out. I've got a fairly deep diving lure on here. I've actually got a jackal chubby on. I hope it's deep enough here for it already. I'll just lob it out there, and what I'm going to do is have a troll. Now, people who watch my stuff know that trolling's about my least favourite kind of fishing, but I don't mind doing it. It's not a bad way, especially in the kayak. When you're covering water anyway, you might as well have a lure in the water. And I'm just going to have a bit of a troll along out here. I think it's about 3 to 4 metres deep where I am. I'll see if this lure hits the bottom. There are a lot of jellyfish here, so I reckon I'm probably going to hit a few of those with my lure, and that'll feel like fish at first. But I'm hoping I might pick up a flathead or a brim or a tailor while we're having a chat. I did a kayak episode recently where I didn't talk at all. I did a completely silent 15-minute video, which a lot of people had trouble getting their heads around, because I'm usually a bit of a chatterbox. I talk all the time while I'm doing my videos, and I just thought I'd try it, do a silent one. Some people absolutely loved it. Some said, please never do that again. But something that a few people made an observation about was how much time I spent looking around while I was casting. I was always sort of looking. I'd hear a mullet splash, or I'd be looking at the next snags or whatever. And I guess I hadn't really noticed how much I do it either until people commented on it after that video. And it got me thinking about the whole thing about observation and fishing. And I reckon if there's one common trait that I've seen in most of the really good anglers that I've been lucky enough to fish with through my lifetime, is that they're very observant people. Now, I don't claim to be a great angler. I've learned a fair bit over the years, and one of the things that I've learned is that you need to be aware of what's going on around you. You need to be taking in all the messages that you're getting, not just from your eyes, but also from your ears, even from your nose. Seriously, you can smell things in fishing. You can smell the difference between fresh and salt water. I've actually smelt bait fish when they've been chopped up by predators out at sea. If it's calm, you can smell it from quite a way off. It's a real sort of sardine-y smell when bait fish have been thumped into by the predators. There are experienced beach fishermen who swear that they can smell the dewies when they're in the surf, and I'd believe it, because if you ever landed a mulloway or a dewfish, you'll know that they've got a very distinctive odour, and I could imagine that might actually be transmitted through the surface and smelt by people at times. So, yeah, it's not just your eyes. Your ears, of course, are important. My hearing's not what it used to be, but I can still hear a fish plop out of the water a fair distance away, and my head will swivel straight away to see what it was, whether it was a mullet, or if I'm on the fresh water, if it was a trout that had risen or whatever. And observation is such a key to success in fishing. Now, I said before that I'm guessing I'm in about 3 to 4 metres of water, and that's because I've fished this lake a fair bit out of my boat with a depth sounder. I've got a depth sounder for the kayak, but to be honest with you, I never bother putting it in. I'm not someone who spends a heck of a lot of time looking at the depth sounder. I mean, there's been plenty of instances where I've caught fish because I've had a depth sounder. I've been able to find the right kind of structure that's holding the fish. I've been able to find the bait fish, and sometimes I've been able to identify the fish themselves, and I've been able to catch fish as a result. But I'm not someone who spends a lot of my time looking at the screen. I'd rather keep my eyes up and be looking at what's going on around me and sort of taking it all in and then just glancing at the screen occasionally. But like I said, I don't even usually bother putting it in the kayak. To me, kayak fishing is just so simple and uncluttered, and it's nice to keep it that way. I've seen kayaks bristling with more gear than my boat, and fair enough if that's the way people want to go kayak fishing, but I like to keep it fairly simple. But having said all that, I've got no problems at all with using the various aids that we've got these days to help us find fish, whether that's a set of polarised sunglasses, and I reckon I'll be putting mine on pretty soon because it's quite glary out here this afternoon. Polarised sunglasses are great because they cut that glare off the surface and allow you to see into the water. You can identify the structure that might be holding fish, and a lot of times you can actually see the fish. You take that one step further, of course, with a depth sounder because it shows you what's down under the boat. And, of course, these days there's all the controversy about the forward-facing sonar, FFS, or livescope, whatever you want to call it, which gives you a live-time view of what's in front of the boat or out to the side of the boat, depends on where you turn the transducer. And some people get all bent out of shape over it, oh, it's cheating, it's not fair to the fish, blah, 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 blah. Look, I don't have one, and I've got no intention at the moment of getting a forward-facing sonar. Apart from anything else, to be totally honest, I can't afford it. They're pretty expensive units. But somewhere down the track, I'm sure the prices are going to come down. I know there's some simpler units now. Lowrance have got an Eagle unit with a really narrow forward-facing beam that looks really good. I might even end up getting one of those eventually. I don't have any philosophical issues with forward-facing sonar. To me, it's just another tool, just another way to spot fish. And as a lot of people have said, and it is so true, there's a huge difference between seeing them and catching them. One of the things that forward-facing sonar is showing a lot of anglers is just how many fish are out there that don't respond at all to our best offerings of lures or baits or flies. You can spot a fish on that forward-facing sonar, put your best presentation past it, and it either ignores it or actually turns around and swims away. That happens a lot, especially with things like Murray cod and even barramundi and the big impoundments. And, if I was chasing Murray cod and impoundment barra on a really regular basis, I would definitely try and save up and put a forward-facing sonar in my boat because I think it makes a massive difference. Now, that lure just felt like I didn't hit a fish or anything, but it just stopped swimming as well as it was before. It might have picked up a tiny little bit of weed. So what I'm going to do is just bring it in and check it. And that's a really good thing to do when you're trolling. If you think you've bumped the bottom or suddenly the lure doesn't feel like it's swimming properly, just bring it in. Yeah, see? Look at that. It's only a little bit of weed on there, but it's enough to kill the action of the lure. Not too many fish are going to take it with that bit of salad hanging off it. So I did actually brush the bottom there. All right, I'll get it back out again. What was I talking about? Yeah, forward-facing sonar. So, look, I don't have a philosophical problem with it at all. I've fished with people that use it. I really admire the people that know how to use it well. All this stuff about, you don't need any skill if you've got forward-facing sonar. Well, if that's the case, tell me this. Why is it that the top anglers with forward-facing sonar catch so many more fish than the rest of the pack, be it in a tournament or in social fishing? It still takes a good angler to convert what you're seeing on the screen into a hookup. You're going to get a lot more chances, of course, and you're going to have to cast a lot less. If you're fishing a cod dam, for instance, instead of just blind casting all day or all night, you can actually save your shots until you can see a fish on the screen, and that does make a big difference. And yeah, hit the bottom again. More fish are going to get caught as a result of it. And it becomes really important then that we all practice conservation and put the big breeders back. And if we are fishing in a fishery where we want to take some fish home, we only take enough of what we're allowed to take within the size limits and everything else. That's all going to be even more important as things like forward-facing sonar make us more effective. But to be honest with you, we're really only just staying ahead of the game anyway, because fishing's getting tougher in a lot of places. Some places there's less fish, but in a lot of places there's more anglers too. Yep, picked up a little bit of weed again, bit of that bubble weed. And, that makes it harder. So we need things going our way to catch fish regularly these days, and things like forward-facing sonar will do that. But look, getting back to the whole observation thing, just learning to not just look, but to actually see. And yes, there's a big difference between looking and seeing something, actually getting a message from what you're seeing. Things like reading the topography. In a freshwater lake, for instance, a dam or whatever, you can look at the shoreline and make some educated guesses about what the underwater topography is doing from the shape of the shoreline. It's fairly obvious stuff, but you'd be amazed how many people don't stop and think about it. And looking at different colours in the water, colour changes, dirty water and clean water, those are things that can have a big influence on your fishing. Someone was asking me the other day if I was fishing a new estuary system for bream on lures, where would I start? And my answer was that I'd look at the clarity of the water, and most likely it's going to be very clear down near the entrance, particularly on the run-in tide. And I find bream pretty hard to catch in those conditions. You certainly can catch them, but they can be a little bit trickier. So what I'd tend to do then is travel upstream until I start to see a bit of a change in the water colour, a little bit of a green or a brown tinge, not dirty, just that little bit of colour change, and that is about where I'd start doing my fishing, where I saw that colour change. And then from there on, I'd start looking at things like structure, snags, rock piles. And the three things I'd really concentrate on are the presence of food. So it might be little bait fish, might be prawns, whatever. The presence of structure, be it a log or a rock or whatever. And then the third and really critical one, bit of water movement. Now, I'm fishing in a landlocked lake here at the moment. It's salt water, but it's close to the sea at the moment. So there's no tidal movement, but there's still movement. If the wind blows in one direction for a couple of days, you'll get water moving in a particular direction. And of course, if you're in tidal water, there's lots of movement, particularly in areas with bigger tides. I've done a lot of fishing up in the northern half of Australia where the tides are really big. And there's an old saying, no run, no fun, and it's pretty true. The fish use those tides. You can have too much run, of course, but the tide and the current and the flow and even that wind-driven movement of water that I was talking about, it can all funnel food into a particular area, and fish are really aware of that. It's lovely out here this afternoon. I'm enjoying that warmth. It was really, really cold this morning when I got up, very close to zero. But it's warmed up, and I'd say the temperature's probably about 17 or 18 at the moment. And in that direct sun, it just feels so nice. You'll notice I've got my PFD on, though, my inflating life jacket, because I'm out in pretty deep water here. If something did go wrong and I ended up in the water, I would definitely pop this, because it's a long swim back, especially seeing I've got these gumboots on. Not the smartest thing, perhaps, to have in a small boat, but when you got to get in and out in the really cold water, and I'm in these cold conditions, I'll wear them, but I'll make sure I've got one of these on as well, because I'd still be able to float, even with the full boots. I'd try and get rid of the boots as quickly as I could, but they're not easy to get off in the water. So make sure I have my life jacket on, even if it's not mandated by law in the jurisdiction that you're in. It just makes a lot of sense to wear one. So yeah, I'm going to make these Tuesday Yak Chats a regular feature. I'll come out in the kayak, have a yarn to you about a subject. Let me know if there's anything you'd particularly like me. Ooh, that's a snag. I'll spin around and go back and see if I can get that lure off. Oh, it's funny, there's must be a bit of rock out there. I didn't know that was there, actually. Good to know. Sometimes your best cheap depth sounder is your lure itself. It'll tell you how deep it is and it'll also let you know where there's a bit of structure like that. I did come past a crab trap there before, but I was well clear of it, so I don't think I've hooked that. But I'll head back up here and see if I can get this lure off. As I was saying, if there's something you'd particularly like me to address in my Tuesday chats, just jump on and let me know. I'd love to tackle any topics that you want to hear about. And I'll take you fishing each Tuesday. We'll come out and do something like this. Oh, you know what? It's a jellyfish. It's not a solid snag at all. I managed to pin myself one of the big jellies that's floating around here. There's a lot of them. Oh, okay. Good catch and release on the jellyfish. All right, I'll get the lure back out. I didn't think there were any snags out in this bit. And I'll keep trolling along this shoreline here, see if I can find a fish. Wow, I'm actually hitting the jellyfish with the propel drive on the Native Watercraft kayak. This is a pedal kayak, obviously, as you can see. There's a few different brands. You've mostly got your Hobies, which have got flippers, and then you've got your various ones with propellers, and the Native Watercraft were the original of those, and as far as I'm concerned, still the best of the propeller-driven kayaks. It's a different action. The ones with the flippers, the Hobies, you use an up and down action with the pedals and flap the flippers. And with the Native Watercrafts and their various clones, you use a circular bicycle motion to drive the propeller. They've both got their advantages and their disadvantages. I guess the biggest disadvantage of the Native Watercraft is that you can't go in super shallow water in it. This propel drive sticks down about 50 centimetres into the water. So once I get in less than about 60 centimetres of water, I've got to lift it up and use the paddle. Whereas with the flippers on the Hobies, you can flutter them. You can keep them up quite high in the water and flutter them and go through really, really shallow stuff. That'd be the only real disadvantage, I think, of the Native Watercraft. What I love about the Native Watercraft, though, is instant reverse. You can go forward and go backwards. You don't have to pull a lever or change anything to go from forward to reverse. And that also means you can shuffle them and hold position in one spot just by going back and forth like that. I don't know how many fish I've landed because I've been able to back pedal out of the snags over the years, but it's a really, really good thing to have, that ability to go instantly from forward into reverse. That's why I love the natives so much. I've been in Native Watercrafts for years, and I don't see any reason to change, but there's nothing wrong with the Hobies. There's some great Hobies around too. If you're a Hobie angler, good for you. Wow, so nice to thaw out. I'm actually not feeling hot, but I'm feeling quite warm at the moment. I've got a couple of layers on here, and I've warmed up quite a bit. I've been talking about observation, and I've been spending most of my time talking to you and not looking around very much, but I'm not seeing a whole lot out here. What I'm looking for out here is things like the odd seabird dipping. There might be some bait fish near the surface or being pushed up by some tailor, things like that, but I'm really not seeing much happening. I haven't even seen a mullet jump since I've been out here today, but the sun's still reasonably high. It's about pushing on towards 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Days are pretty short at this time of the year. That sun will get down pretty quickly, but as it does get a bit lower, that's when I'd expect the fish to become a little bit more active. What I might do is poke in along the shore here with this troll lure and see if I can spot some snags that are worth actually casting at. Notice I've just got my peaked baseball cap on. I've started wearing broader brimmed hats in the sun a lot these days, with all the worries about skin cancer and everything else. It's really important to cover up. But 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of winter, I reckon I can actually benefit from a little bit of exposure to some sunlight. I don't think it'll do me any harm at all. So I've just gone for the baseball cap. It's so still out here this afternoon. You can hear things that are kilometres away. The mountains are looking really clear. Just a gorgeous day. I'm going to turn the cameras off for a little while and just pedal along a bit more, and I'll fire them up again if I hook anything. I'll catch you then. The sun's getting really low now. It's going to disappear behind those trees and hills in a minute, and it'll get dark really quickly, and it'll get cold really quickly. I won't be staying out here too much longer, but I'm going to have another couple of goes around these rocks with a shallower running lure, especially now that the light levels have dropped a bit. Look, we might not catch anything on today's YAK chat, but I'm sure we will on future Tuesdays, so I hope you'll join me. These chats from the YAK are brought to you by CM Partners Accounting. That's the accountancy firm that I use. They're Sydney-based, but they work all over Australia. And with tax time coming up, it's a really good time to have a good set of accountants on your side, and CM Partners are fantastic. If you've been thinking about changing accountants or you're not happy with your current ones, give them a call and tell them that Starlo sent you, and they'll give you a free consultation. Absolutely no strings attached. All right, let's have a cast. I'll work my way in. It's pretty shallow out here. It'd be nice to get one, wouldn't it? Right at the end. This is the time. It's the witching hour. I love this change of light period for all kinds of fishing. One of the reasons it's so good is that most predatory fish, their eyes adapt faster to the changing light conditions than the prey that they're chasing. So it gives them a bit of an advantage as the light levels are shifting, either decreasing late in the day or increasing early in the morning. Wow, it's so quiet out here. The two seagulls that were sitting on the rock have just taken off. Come on, there has to be a fish, surely. Just test my drag again, tighten it a little bit because it's pretty rocky country in here. I can actually hear the surf on the beach now. It's probably 1 kilometre away, just over those sand dunes. But with it being so still this late in the day, I can hear it. First of the commercial netting boats is heading out to net the system tonight. I don't have a problem with anyone making a living, but I'm just a bit stunned that small, intermittently closed and open lakes and lagoons like this one can still be intensively commercially netted. I don't know, it doesn't seem either sensible or sustainable to me, but that's the way it goes. New South Wales Fisheries, in their wisdom, have decided that it's okay to net systems like this, even though they'd be worth far more as recreational resources. But anyway, we won't get into all of that. Live and let live. I just don't think it's going to happen for me this evening. Well, that hasn't exactly been a wasted couple of hours. It's been very enjoyable. Hope you've enjoyed my first Tuesday YAK chat, and that you'll tune in next Tuesday and have a look. And like I said, if you've got a subject that you'd like me to have a chat about, just let me know. I read all your comments, even if I don't get to respond to every single one of them, and I try to respond to most. The other thing you can really do to help me is give me a thumbs up, like this, and subscribe to the channel if you don't already do so. If you're listening to this as a podcast, just remember you can go to Starlo Gets Real on YouTube and see the video. But I know some people like their podcasts more than videos, and I can understand that. Great when you're travelling and stuff like that too in the car. I enjoy a podcast. I'm on my last half dozen or so casts here, I think. The bow waves from that netting boat have just reached me. They took a while to get here across the calm lake. I'm only about 300 metres from my car now. I've been working my way back, so it won't take me long to get back in there. Anyway, until next Tuesday, this is Starlo wishing you tight lines.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.